Hey, my friends, 2 days in a row. Can you believe it? We're going to be building wins 2 days in a row. Had a great conversation. Hope you caught it yesterday with my friend Spencer Lund. If you didn't catch it on replay, he brought some real brilliance in the world of Google and SEO, and I'm sure you'll enjoy catching up with our friend, my friend, good old Spencer Lund. Christian Bunt, there she is, my friend Christian, who's doing some amazing things in the background for me right now that we won't talk about here, but I appreciate your efforts, my friend. You're the best. And so ways today we've got day 2 of this week. Brian Sexton. Brian is running just a little late. And so we're gonna hang in here and wait for Brian because I want you to hear some stuff that he's got to talk about. He's the host of the Intentional Encourager podcast, which I was blessed to be on a few weeks ago, and author of a book called People Buy from People. And he'll be here in just a little bit. But in the interim, we're going to be right back with my buddy, pal, compadre, Wes White. We're going to kick around a little bit of what's going on in our life for the next few minutes and do a little dog and pony song and dance until Brian shows up. So be right back. Don't go away. Brother Wes.
Hey, how you doing, Randy?
Man, all this FaceTime you get, I am gonna have to start giving you a raise. This is getting
I know,
old,
right?
This is getting expensive.
We got 3 shows next week.
I know. Can you believe that? Yeah.
No, I can't. That's a lot.
I won't never do that to you again. I promise. Likely, I don't promise, but
That's a good problem to have, though.
It is. And it's funny though. Been blessed to have a lot of people that would love to be on the show, and sometimes you invite people, right? And I hate inviting people. I'm literally into almost through April, into May right now, with some people further. And so what I really hate to do is invite somebody that I really want to, not that I don't want everybody on, and go, oh yeah, they say, yeah, I'd love to be on, Randy. Well, I could get you out about July of next year, right? That just sounds, this sounds bad, I guess. So, but yeah, it worked out well because this couple of weeks here, I'm kind of working from home. Be a lot of travel coming up. As a matter of fact, we're going to try a couple of fun things, unique things, you and I, with some remote. Randy live, as in at the customer's facility. I got a couple of shows I'm going to be at, and we're going to I think we got 2 of those planned, and we'll see how that goes. It may be the West show again, as I can't get online. Who knows? But we'll certainly give it a try.
We got Kirsten popping on one more time here.
No longer than some of yeah, a little bit of a industry joke there, an inside joke. The building. She's in the building supply material world. She's a trader for LBM Advantage, which is a buying group that I do a lot of business with. And as a matter of fact, going to be at their show, doing some lives from their show, or some recordings, some vignettes, if you will, in a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks, and. But that's funny because anybody in our industry knows what we've been going through with supply chain issues. Lead times are a challenge. It's funny, and I'm sure Kirsten can say something about this. But lead times, it used to be customers would call and beat people like her in my head because we're not supplying in time. Now it's just like I know, but just any idea. It's really the way it's got. It's amazing, but. So we're going to do 3 next week. Can you believe? I know you already said you can't believe it, and
I can't believe it. And that's just a testament to how many people are digging, the concept of coming on and spreading what it is that they're doing, Randy. I mean, there's not a lot of places, for people to do this in the grand scheme of things, especially in your industry. If you're talking about social media, there's a lot of people doing lives, but in your, world, like you said, when you were at Opryland walking around, there just wasn't a lot of people doing it. And it's great for us, but it's very sad, in the sense that, if people aren't embracing video and podcasting and just some of the new things that are coming out, they're going to go the way of the dodo. I mean, they just are. You cannot not embrace technology, and it's something that you've done so insanely awesome, that I just, it's not a stroke. It's not an attaboy or a suck up. I'm very amazed when people that are in an industry that, is handshakes and travel and planes and meetings and, paperwork and everything is done on a very old school basis, for someone to switch gears like you did, and just adopt it so quickly is just absolutely amazing. And kudos, my friend.
Well, thank you. It may be um, um, that I'm just crazy, but
Well, I know you're
I
crazy.
well,
There's
we
no
know that, but somebody I was going to give a shout out because they were guests on our show many moons ago, as they say. I don't even know what that means, many moons ago, uh, but Adam and Mason from Best Buy Metals, they were on Building Winds. Like I said, it's been months now, and I really enjoyed their conversation. They were one of the only others that I saw. I picked up on several of their videos. I remember one with Adam sitting in a chair. I recognized the area there in the Opera Land, just having a chat with people, on air. And you see people like them doing that every day. And I so hats off to them for doing that. And you're right. It's an interesting thing because um, I'm really finally in that real happy period or happy period, but happy place where, I use the moniker. I switched it this year to 3.0 hybrid amazing, right? From 2.5. And next year we'll go to something. I might go way crazy and go to 10.0 just because what's how much we're going to do this year. You've already let most of those cats out of the bag. If we let half those cats out of the bag, we're going to have to go to 10.0. But I just truly enjoy the hybrid aspect of it, and I talk about that a lot, right? But I I still do a lot right now, more of back out glad handing and handshaking and uh, uh, traveling and doing the things that I've built my business on and love to do. But I'm equally okay being home in the office a couple weeks, and I don't feel I miss a beat. As a matter of fact, I feel like I pick up a beat because I can talk to between these kind of things, right, Wes, and all kinds of social media posts and other little videos. The amount of customer contact, if you will, I might see 5 people in a day on a good day if I'm traveling the road. And here I'm talking to hundreds, if not thousands, depending on how many people happen to engage that day. So it's really been fun, and I look at it to kind of wind up my long duration here is it's not a one or the other, and I think that's what people have, at least for me. Some people have, and we talked about this before. It's all going to be the new normal, and nobody's traveling ever again in history. Nah, I didn't buy that from the. Okay, at the start I did because I was worried, like everybody else, I might never leave again. I didn't know what I was going to do with my 19 million points from the airlines and all my hotels. Can I get cash value like 10 cents for those or what? But now it's just such. I use the word augmentation, and I think you agree with me on that. Is you just get to augment the travel with the virtual when you're home or from a hotel. For example, in a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I'm going to be at a couple of shows, couple of meetings, and I've got a Friday afternoon with the infamous, we should say famous because you infamous war room, nobody gets that. Ken Walls, friend of both of ours. Ken's going to be on a Friday, and I had a choice to make. I can try to get out of there Friday morning, make sure I get back home in time, make sure I don't have delays, right? Or I'm just going to stay over and fly home Saturday so that I can just get to the hotel. I can be set up, with my stuff, maybe not all my stuff, but and be ready to have a good show with Ken. And so my only point of all that is once you make that part of your toolbox as opposed to something weird and odd that you just decide to do, it becomes second nature. And I'm speaking to the master himself. So what say you, as our friend Sean Litbach would say?
Well, I can tell you a couple things just right off the top. Decades ago, Billy Graham decided that as opposed to going in and laying hands on one, two, 20, maybe 50 live people at a time, he was going to go and do these coliseums. And he would go and he would preach at the front of the coliseum, like where there would normally be a band or something of that nature, and he would bring all these people to Christ, all at the same time, by
Mm-hmm.
doing a mass type thing. And in advance, guys, I want to apologize for any bings and bongs you hear. Normally, I'm behind the scenes, and because I'm on with Randy, you're going to unfortunately hear things that you normally wouldn't hear. So I apologize. But a second version of that is going to be all the different people. Like, for instance, we lost a great today in the form of Bob Proctor.
Mm-hmm.
In the last probably 6 months, I have seen Bob Proctor more than I did when they were promoting the movie The Secret. He was on doing lives with people. I mean, what felt like round the clock. I mean,
Right.
and Bob wasn't a young guy, but he was doing these just impromptu lives with. I mean, I seen him just all over the place. And again, we lost him today. He was an absolute amazing great, and he's one of these people that just like a Zig Ziglar or
Mm-hmm.
any of the other greats that we've lost. Another great we lost was Miles Monroe.
Right.
He died empty, and what's going to happen is his legacy is going to continue on, just like Zig and these other people, and we're going to continue to learn from them over and over again, way past their death. As a matter of fact, much like Elvis or Michael Jackson or any of these people, he'll probably have the best book sales and stuff ever
Right.
in the next couple of days, just because people will rush out and get his stuff. But the people that adopt that idea of going out there and, going live and just embracing technology, they're the winners. They're the people that, we've talked about this on a thing a while back, Randy, and that is there is no new stuff out there. It's just a new bow that's put on the package,
Right.
with some new moniker, some new something, and the fact of the matter is that there really isn't a new things out there. It's just a new version of
Right.
the old stuff. And if you don't adopt this, video and podcasting and smart speakers and all the different things that are out there, you're just going to get left behind. And there's just absolutely no reason for that. And I don't know why people don't want to adopt it. It's not a fad. It's not going anywhere. You can dislike Zuck all you want. I think he lost, I forget how many billions of dollars, last
Two,
night.
262, I think, was the number.
Yeah, it was, triple
Almost real money.
digit.
Almost
Yeah,
real money.
yeah. So, you dislike him as much as you want, but his technology is a necessary evil. It just is. I mean,
But
it's something that if you're not taking advantage of it, you're silly.
what is, and it, you hit a key word a minute ago, is um, I use the word a lot for myself, and I talk to people if they want to listen. Uh, what did I, the most out of the 2 years of the whole lockdown world is I became an adopter. And it's not, the most important thing, Wes, is not the things that I learned to adopt, like PC and iPad and 9 lights and a headset and I'm comfortable jumping on literally, a point now where if one of our buddies called me 12 minutes after this show and said, "Hey, I'm in emergency. Could you jump on quick?" I'd throw my mic back on and we'll go, right? That's a whole new level of confidence and knowing what you do after a period of time. That's important. The important part, though, is that I become an adopter. In other words, I'm anticipating I'm going to have to adopt. I'm anticipating things are going to change. I'm expecting they're going to change. So what if it does? It does. Whatever it is, you tell me what we need to do, and and that has changed my outlook as an older guy, not old, but older, um, just 4+ decades. Um, plus. And I think we've already talked. I talked about this some of the other day. I think it might have been Spencer that I'm getting dangerously close to having to get rid of the vanity and change that. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
know what the plus is. I won't say
yeah,
it though.
yeah. If you do, you're fired. So I would never fire you. But it's that if you got to get a mindset of adoption or adaption, and if you get that, it's like whatever it is, I'll be great. Well, that changed. I don't love it. But back to what you talked about, I didn't want to forget about it because I think the message that we got, we should have Brian probably before too long. Um, how about Zig Ziglar? One of the great ones, right? Just massive, great, great, great ones. And he's been around I remember being at a show with one of my sons and a girlfriend of his at the time and saw Zig. And, and I chatted back and forth via Medium. I can't remember what I was on. One of the messengers with his son Tom the other day, and tell him about the time I was at this show, specifically where it was, and remember seeing Zig. It was getting a little frailer in his life, but when he did that, where he knelt down and it did I'll see you at the top.
Yeah,
It still gives me chills to think about that. Right? There's just one of those greatest moments in the world of motivation and inspiration that never goes away.
I saw Zig with Peter Lowe at the Get Motivated series. That I went to a couple of them, and it's funny because I think about the speakers that were there and how some of them have kind of fallen from grace. One of which was Bill Cosby. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Another was
I saw
Rudy
Bill at one of
Giuliani.
those things. Yep.
Rudy was there and was the king of New York after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's considered to be kind of laughable, and it's one of those things that the people that withstood the test of time. Zig was definitely one of those. Norman
Yes.
Schwarzkopf was another one that I saw.
Exactly.
During that, and Fran Tarkenton and
Colin
uh,
Powell. I saw Colin Powell at one.
Colin Powell, I saw
Yeah.
at one as well. And
Yeah.
those Get Motivated shows were just amazing.
Hey, they
And
were.
to go back on one of the things you were just talking about with adapting, a couple years ago, one of the hottest movies out there was Black Panther, and Avenger movie for Marvel, and at one point in the movie, his sister, who is the tech person, she was like the cube, to James Bond. She says that she wants the beads back, which are, these beads are programmable and do all these amazing things. And he says they worked fine. And she says to him, brother, when are you going to learn that fine is not enough? That there's always improvement that can be made. And I said, on many of these broadcasts with you, that one of the most dangerous things I've ever heard in my life, working anywhere, is that's the way we've always done it,
Right.
as an answer. And if you hear that at a place and they're unwilling to budge, you need to find a resume, and you need to get on Monster or Indeed or whatever it is and get the heck out of there, because they are going to go the way of the dinosaur.
Yep.
It's just you can't keep that attitude and grow. You just can't.
Right.
And so you're adopting, or Billy Graham or whoever we're talking about. Zig, who had a billion books out there, he still went to the online world.
Mm-hmm.
And that should tell you right there. I mean, it's something that if someone like that does it, there's probably a reason that they did it. One of the people that we follow, Jeffrey Gitomer,
Mm-hmm.
he's got lots of books, but he's online every day at 9:59.
Right.
Is he talking to thousands of people? No, but the people that he talks to are evangelistic enough to go out and spread that word. And I think you and I spoke about this offline just a couple hours ago, and that is these comedians. They used to have to go on Bob and Tom, and Brian's here. Brian, I'll bring you on in 2 seconds. But the comedians would go on Bob and Tom and the morning radio shows and all these different morning zoos to get their their venue filled up. Now they go on their own podcast. They make money off their advertisements, and their venues are filled to the max. They don't have to, have carnival barkers out in front, trying to get the place filled. They're filled before they get there.
Right.
So it's a must. So
it is a must. But speaking of what'd you call them? Barkers? What kind of barkers?
The old carnival barkers.
Carnival barkers. I think when you get done doing this gig, that will be your job.
You think so?
I do.
Think I'd be a good hype man?
I think you'd be a great hype man out in front of one of those little circus tents. Seeing the giraffe lady with 7 heads or something. I don't know.
I'd be more likely to be one of the freaks that they're barking about in there, Randy. Come see the big bald guy.
There you go. Well, hey, we got Brian, much awaited. Our friend Brian. Hey, brother.
How you doing, Randy? And I would kind of do something like this. I'd go, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the, I'd do something like that. So
wouldn't it be great? It would be. You see, you got the voice. You got the voice. It's perfect.
Well, it's years of doing high school basketball, doing public address announcing. So you have to start out by saying, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to wherever." And then,
yep. Oh, I love it. I love it, man. So did you sell anything today, or just? I know you was on a long meeting. Did you get something accomplished?
That's a great question. I have no idea. I did wear my I dressed up for you, so I wore. I'll drop my microphone down.
Okay. Oh, that's for West. West, you got those Bengals on, West. Look at that.
Yeah. I have been a Bengals fan, Randy, since I was 9 years old. So I'll tell a quick story. My aunt and uncle got me a Kenny Anderson jersey. Kenny Anderson was the quarterback. Should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, by the way. But Kenny Anderson was the quarterback, and I was 9 years old. In January of 19, they got it for me for Christmas of 81, and then the next month, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 16, where they lost to the 49ers, and I became a Bengals fan from that time on, and and so when they got to the Super Bowl, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs last week. What a surreal moment. I was a junior in high school the last time that happened, and I'll be 50 in August. So you kind of do the math. It's been a long time.
Well, I got some math for you, my friend.
Yeah.
I can't really call myself a Detroit Lions fan, even though I grew up in Michigan. Actually, where I grew up in Michigan, we were Green Bay Packer fans, and I didn't grow up way up in that UP area, which is normal. For whatever reason, it just basically because the Lions sucked. So, I mean, you had no choice. You had to find somebody else. But I can't go back to the time that the Lions were in a Super Bowl because it's never happened.
them and the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I want to say the Houston Texans.
That sounds right.
Are the 4 teams that have never made a Super Bowl appearance. So, I tell you what, it's for Bengals fans, it's a great thing. So that's why I rocked my Bengals sweatshirt today, Randy. I hope it was okay. I tried to dress up today.
Anytime. I'm a big. We got Wes is a Bengals fan. I think I'm pretty sure he is. We got a good buddy, Brian Monahan, that's in a mastermind group that Wes and I, where we all met actually, and he's a big Bengals fan, and some friends of ours, I think from Louisville area, probably. Are Bengals fans? I'm guessing that they are, but all good. Well, thank you for making the effort. I know to get.
And by the way, this is my green screen. So I'm in my home podcast studio today, where I do the Intentional Encourager podcast, and sometimes I'll record on the road. But behind me, this is a green wall that serves as a green screen. So it's like, Brian, why do you own a green wall? Well, it's because this is where my microphone and equipment are set up, and StreamYard, I guess, doesn't have a virtual background that I know of. I don't use StreamYard a whole lot, but that's why the wall's green behind me.
Well, I like the green wall. Personally, I'm kind of a maize and blue guy. Go blue. So, I mean, a little maize and blue would have been nice. Little, a gesture, Brian, but still.
Well, I listened to a little bit of Tom Brady's podcast last night, and they had Joe Burrow on their podcast, and Brady told Joe Burrow, he said, that was an incredibly good decision you made to transfer from Ohio State to LSU.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so of course Brady's a Michigan man, so he told Burrow he thought that was probably one of the best decisions he'd ever made to transfer from Ohio State. But I live about 3 hours from Columbus, so there's a mix of Ohio State fans here. I've got some good friends that are Michigan fans, but where I live, for those that may not know, I live about 20 minutes east of Huntington, West Virginia, which is where Marshall University is. And so if you're a football fan and you've watched the careers of Chad Pennington and Randy Moss and Troy Brown and Byron Leftwich, who is the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that's where they played college football. And then there was a movie that we had made 16 years ago called We Are Marshall. It's a true story of the 1970 plane crash. So, that's where I live. So, for a point of reference, you said go Maize and Blue, Randy. I bleed green and white, and it's Go Herd. So here.
There you go, Go Herd. Gotta love it. Hey, I've always liked Marshall. I don't know why. Probably because of the disaster that they had that just made you fall in love with the program a little bit. But so what do you want? Let's talk about. There's two things I wanted to chat about in general with you.
Okay.
Maybe three.
Okay.
The first thing is you are the host of a long-running now Intentional Encourager podcast. I get that right?
Yep, that's right.
You dipped deep into the lower bowels of the barrel to have me on one day, which I appreciate.
That was a great podcast. I'd encourage folks to go back and, no pun intended, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that one. That was a good one.
Intentionally encourage them. Yes, I actually posted that again today, just for anybody that might be watching the show today to get a feel for who Brian is. So I know I enjoyed that very much, and I love the story about your dad, and maybe we're going to talk about that in a minute. But because that coincides with your book, People Buy from People, right?
Yep. It does.
And I've read that book. I don't know if you got one laying there, but
I would have to get up and grab it. But yeah, I can grab it here real quick.
Yeah, but it was a. Oh, look, my friend Kirsten on there. She listened to the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Kirsten. I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, now I'm gonna owe her dinner next time I see her. She's a customer of mine and friend. She's a customer friend, and it's funny about her, Brian. We just lost your picture. I assume are you still there? Do we still have you, Brian?
I'm here. I was just I was
okay.
You asked me to grab a. I wanted to grab a copy of the book.
But Brian, I'm not used to anybody doing what I ask them. Jeez. Okay, there it is. There it is, right there. Excellent book. I'm going to recommend people get that book. I've read it. I enjoyed it very much. And when we had our conversation a few weeks ago on your show, we talked a lot about people selling people buy from people, and we talked about our dads. And so I'm going to shut up for a minute, which is hard for me, and tell us about your dad. Tell us about growing up with your dad and how that influenced you, because the story is incredible. And what I love about the story is it's a good story, period, but it so mirrors my life of growing up with my dad, and I'm going to shut up for a while and listen to the story.
Well, Randy, you said on my podcast that you were an only child, and my dad was the youngest of 12. So my dad's oldest brother was 28 years older than he was. And my dad had nieces and nephews that were older than he was. So it was the family that I grew up in. The extended family that I grew up in was quite an unusual family. And my dad was very unique in the family. Yeah, he was a little brother, but my dad was the kind of guy that when he came into the room, even his older brothers and sisters kind of sat up and took notice. And that was what I grew up around. That was the atmosphere that I grew up around. But I'll tell you something about my dad, and I haven't said this a lot about my dad, but my dad instilled in me some incredible confidence. My dad just basically said, I believe you can do anything you want to do. And so it's one thing to tell your kids, Randy, it's like, oh, I believe you can do that. It's another thing to go, I believe you can do that, and here are the opportunities that I'm going to help you find that's going to prove that to you. And so that's, when I think about the things that I've gotten to do since my dad's passed away and the things that I wish that my dad had gotten to see me do, that's the thing that I come back to is the confidence that my dad instilled in me. Now, my mom's the exact opposite. My mom is very much a background kind of person. But my mom, her gift is she's incredible at doing the stuff that nobody sees. Mm-hmm. And so, my dad being the front man, my mom being kind of behind the scenes, I got to see the best of both worlds. And what I appreciate now that I'm older is there are times that I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Because growing up, you see people, you go like, okay, you're supposed to be out front. And I think, the thing that I learned from my dad, too, about selling is take care of the people that are doing the behind-the-scenes stuff. Be as engaged with them as customers as you are with external customers. See, that's a problem we run into in sales is everybody wants to chase the external customer, but most people forget about the internal customer. If you can't take care of the people that are taking care of you, I don't care how big your territory gets or how big your business gets. It's not going to be nearly as successful because without taking care of the people behind the scenes, you're not going to be able to take care of the people that you're out there recruiting to try to do business with you. And you can be the greatest person in the world, but if you can't deliver on your promises, you can't deliver on what you have told the customer that you could do, then you're going to be a colossal failure, and you can't be as successful as you want to be without those people behind the scenes. So I learned a lot of that, especially when my dad and I worked together, Randy. The last 10 months of his life, I watched my dad, people would do anything that he asked them to do. And they didn't mind it at all. And, I had to try to kind of build my own reputation in that because I didn't want to ride my dad's coattails. But I saw my dad take care of people. My dad, and I said this in the book, my dad would take a trip or something like that. If he knew that somebody liked, let's say, chocolate-covered peanuts, somebody in the office, he would make sure that he brought back some chocolate-covered peanuts. He'd take care of those people. And so it's a long way around the question that you asked, but there's so many layers to what made my dad who he was. But now as I'm older and he's gone and I'm unpeeling those layers, what I'm finding, it's simple stuff that my dad did that really made him a powerful connector and really the impetus behind why people just connected with him in unique and incredible ways.
That's awesome. So give us a couple of Brian's secrets, if you will, that you learned from your dad, because I think we could all learn from obviously somebody had a lot of influence on you, and because you've went on to do some great stuff. What you do every day is inspirational to me, Brian.
Thank you.
And it you're welcome. It's well deserved. And so obviously some of this came from your dad. So
yeah. So
give us give me a couple bullet points there that what could we take today from that?
The biggest thing that my dad told me, growing up, Randy, I didn't get in trouble for fighting. I didn't get in trouble for a lot of other stuff. My dad really detested if we did this, if my sister and I did something like this, we were going to get the wrath poured out on us. My dad would punish us harder for lying than he would punish us for anything else. And my dad always said to me, he said, son, if you say it, own it. Yeah. And so my dad taught my sister and I, and then we have a younger sister. She was, my parents adopted her when I was a senior in high school. So I was 17 when she came along. My dad was a man who believed that if you told him something, you better be a man of your word. And if he told you something, you better believe that he was going to be a man of his word. I'll share a story with you about my dad. My dad, and this was 30 years ago, I was in college. My dad worked for my uncle. My uncle had a business, and they were struggling. They were circling the drain, so to speak. And my dad needed to find work and find it pretty fast. And he got an opportunity to interview with a company. And this company in their industry was one of the leaders in their industry. In fact, it's kind of a cool fact. So we were talking NFL football a little bit ago. There was a guy that was an all-pro linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. He just retired a few years ago. His name was Luke Kuechly. My dad worked for Tom Kuechly, Luke's dad, in Cincinnati. And so he was interviewing with Tom for this sales position with the company and got the job and needed a car. And, he needed something he could – he had pretty good-sized territory. He needed a car. So we had a guy in our church – one of the senior ministers in our church said, go talk to this man. If you need to borrow some money, he's good about helping people in the church. And so my dad went to him and he said, hey, you need to borrow some money. And the man said, yeah, no problem. They worked out a loan. My dad, every month, my dad paid him religiously. In fact, my dad, no pun intended, but my dad paid him on time, early, every month until he got that car paid off. And this man came to my dad as my dad handed him the last payment. This man looked at my dad and he had tears in his eyes and he said, Jerry, people have borrowed money from me. They've not paid me back. And he said, you paid me back and then some. And he said, you always were early. You were never late. You did what you said you were going to do. And he said, do not ever go to a bank. This man was pretty well off. He said, anything that you and your family need, you come to me first. And I will help you. And I will make sure that you have what you need. And so that's how important it was for my dad to keep his word. And if I could leave something with salespeople today, is something that I used to tell my salespeople when I was a sales manager. I would say this. I would say anything you say can and will be used against you. If you say it, own it. The other thing that my dad taught me, so I said this at his funeral service. My dad taught me three important things. My dad taught me how to love, how to work, and how to serve. And so, my dad and mom were together the night before my dad passed away. My mom and dad were married for 41 years. In fact, my dad gave up playing golf, Randy, because my mom wanted horses. My mom had always wanted horses. And so my dad said, you know what? I spent a lot of Saturdays chasing a little white ball around. I'm going to give that up for your mom. So they were married 41 years. All the time that I was growing up, my dad always told me, he said, son, I got to chase the money. And he did. My dad chased the money. And service, my dad was a pastor the last 3.5 years of his life. I saw him serve other people, and not only as customers, but I saw him serving people at the church and things like that. So that's really what got passed down to me as the oldest of three kids. And the only male out of the three, it is those things about my dad. And I feel like as long as I'm alive, my dad will never die. That's why, right. Randy, that's why I wear contact lenses and a beard, because if I shaved my beard and I put glasses on, I'd look like my dad, and that's a no-no to my wife. So my wife of over 25 years, that's a no-no to her. So
gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. So when you talk a lot in your book about, serving and people buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell with talking to you, reading your book, number one, if you read your book and don't believe you believe that, then you obviously need to go back and read it again, because you fully believe that. And that's a concept that is easy to talk about. Do you find that easy to actually do? Do you have to work hard at that? Is that a natural, normal thing because of your upbringing with your dad? Combination of all the above?
Let me tell you something. if I'm going to tell you one concept out of the book that I talk about more than anything that I wrote about, and I wrote about the 10 powerful people lessons that I learned from the ultimate people person, my dad. The one concept that resonates with me all the time is this. And if you're watching today, I want you to get a pen and a piece of paper because I want you to write this down. People buy connection before they ever make a transaction. And I'm going to say that again. People buy connection before they ever make a transaction. Here's what I mean by that. Randy, let's say, for instance, that I'm in a store and I'm looking for a mug like this one. I've got some hot tea in it. And I look at this mug and I say, man, I like that mug. I've made a connection right then and there. It's got, and this was my mug. I wanted to kind of personalize it. It's just a black mug, but I got a couple Marshall sticks. I wanted something that I could recognize pretty easily. If I was in an airport or something, or if I was, this is my mug. I know this is my mug. I'm connected to it because it's mine. It belongs to me. People do that when they buy anything. They connect to that product first before they make the transaction. And once they've made the connection, then in their mind, they start figuring out, how do I go get it? But without the connection, the transaction doesn't happen. And I don't care if you're selling widgets. I don't care if you're selling, like in the building business. I don't care if you've got the best rivets that you go down into the roof. I don't care if you've got the best in the business. If people don't have that connection with your product and they don't believe it, they may go, yeah, you may have the best, but I'm not really convinced. You're more convinced than they are. But once they make that connection, once they say, you know what, that building you built for me, that roof has withstood a lot of stuff, and I believe it's because we used quality materials. Now that person is like, so the next time that they're going to make a transaction, guess what? They're already connected. Right. They're already connected to what you can do for them. So I have salespeople that go, well, you got to do this and you got to do this. It's real simple. If you don't have that connection with that customer first, you can forget about the transaction, because if they're not connected to you or they're not connected to your product, they're going to go somewhere where they feel connected. And I've seen it time and time again. And so that's why connection, Randy, let me jump off here for just a second, okay? And thank you guys for staying with me. But here's the thing that really irks me. And I've been through a ton of sales trainings in 27 years, and you have too. Right. I don't hear people talking about how powerful connection is with customers. We talk about, well, you've got to, when I was coming up in sales, it was feel, felt, found. Get them to feel, felt, found. Mm-hmm. Well, what a lot of people feel is if they don't feel connection, like they've never felt before, what they'll find is that they'll go somewhere else to get it. And then what they found is that they want connection. So give them connection. Give them that connection that says, you know what? That was a great experience, Randy. Good night, Randy. That was a great experience that you provided for me. How can I do business with you again? Good grief. I probably need some caffeine or something like that, because that question just gets me. Nothing beats connection, Randy. Right. Nothing beats connection. And I think that's what I learned from my dad. Even after his death, I really learned it, is that nothing beats connection. And it's not, folks, it's not hitting the button. It's not clicking this button. A lot of people, Randy, they'll send us connection requests and they'll go, oh yeah, I want to connect. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're connected. Let me pitch you on something.
Right.
I have had people do that, and I say, listen, because I believe that people buy connection before they ever make a transaction, until we connect in a deeper way, I'm not going to do business with you. Right. And so, yeah, forgive me for going off on a little rant tangent.
No, that's a great rant, because I make notes to myself sometimes when I set outside in the morning before I get going about 6:30, 6:45, start some phone calls, whatever. And I do it to remind myself. I write down, I sign my name, just Randy. I sign Randy Inc. because I don't have a Randy Inc. I'm Source One Marketing. That's my website. Building Wins Lives is our podcast that Wes and I do. But I remind myself that, look, what you just said is the only thing that matters today. If I call you, Brian, the first time today as a potential customer, right? The only thing that matters is what you just said, and that's why I love that, is that you and I connect as Randy and Brian, right? Because that's what you just said so brilliantly, is because if it doesn't happen, they don't really care about my goofy widget. And of course, I've got as good a spiel as anybody. I can recite the Dog and Pony Show, right? I can give you the 427 things why mine's better than everybody else's. I can give you all that stuff all day long.
Yep.
But the key thing is, everything that I sell, well, I think I've got a little tidbit here and a little thing there that is quantifiably better maybe than somebody else's area here, area there. But at the end of the day, fasteners that I sell for metal roofing, you could buy my competitors.
Yep.
It still holds a roof on.
Yep.
Right? It still holds a roof on.
Yeah, I used to tell people when I was in the food service industry, I used to tell people I sell everything from green beans to urinal screens. and again, there are large companies that had what I had, but they didn't have me, and they didn't have. And so when I think about what my dad told me 27 years ago after I got my first sales job, and he said, "Never forget, son, people buy from people." My dad was really telling me was, you need to be a connector. Think about this for a second, Randy. When you plug in a light switch, and I've got a light right over here, used to belong to my wife's granddad, passed away here a couple years ago. That light, with that light bulb, I can turn the switch on that light. If I could turn that switch all day long. But unless it's connected to a power source, it doesn't work.
Right.
And that power source is ready to supply power at any time, but unless you plug something into it, it's just going to sit there. By themselves, a light, a lamp, and an outlet are not as good as when they come together, when they connect. And you notice if you've got a bad connection on that lamp, if that switch, if there's something in the cord that you can't see, that light just... I was in a hotel room a couple weeks ago. I was dealing with the cord on that light I wanted on. It was just flickering on and off. I was like, is the light bulb bad? Is it? But there was something in the connection that didn't make good contact. And so again, folks, when you think about what you have, forget the spiel. And I love what you said there, Randy. You're like, I've got the spiel, and we fall in love a lot of times in sales with the script.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to fall in love with a script, you might as well go be an actor.
Right.
If that's what you want to do is fall in love with a script, go be an actor or go be an actress. But if you really want to communicate and connect consistently, 3 C's, communication, connection, consistency. If you want to do that, you're going to be a dynamite salesperson. Because at that point, you're really speaking the language of your customer, that 4th C, that customer. And so that's the thing that I really learned from my dad was those things. My dad was incredibly consistent. That's something else that was a hallmark of my dad. My dad was consistent. Called me the same, called me by my childhood nickname sometimes. And I knew exactly when, even before the advent of caller ID on your cell phone, I knew the minute that my dad called me by my childhood nickname, that was it. And so that's when you learn consistency, you just model it. Yeah, Kirsten, and listen to what the customer needs and not what you think they need. That's exactly right. Although I will push back and say this. There are times that the customer doesn't know what they need. But here's the thing that they trust is I trust that if I'm buying from Randy, I may not know what I need, but I know Randy's the guy that can help me get it because I'm connected to Randy.
Right. But you have to get that. And that great point there with both is you have to develop that relationship. Once you develop that connection, you can then say, but Brian, hold on a second. I know you think you want this, but we've been pals for the last 15 years, right? Doing business together.
Yeah.
I don't think you want that, and let me tell you why.
It's like a Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt. I don't think I want that.
I don't think you do. But, hey, when summer comes again up there in Ohio or West Virginia, you need to wash your car. And
well, yeah, that's the a brown sweatshirt or a Raven
exactly.
sweatshirt. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
No, it's – and again, that's – Randy, you just hit on something again. I love where our conversation's going is if somebody knows that I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, why are you trying to sell me a Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt?
Right.
We there are times, and I learned this early. I made this mistake early in my career. Was selling products, although that I knew pretty well. I got caught a lot of times selling product that I knew well, but I didn't think about how it fit my customer. Mm-hmm. I would just say, well, I know this product well and I can talk about it. And my customer's like, yeah, but I can't afford that. Right. You should know that about me, that I can't afford that. And it just, it had to make me think, okay, I have to know my customer. I have to know what, not only what's important to them, but what they value. And everybody has a different perception of value. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and I say, hey, I'm going to sell you a Steelers sweatshirt, that's going to be really valuable to them. Not going to be real valuable to me, but it's going to be incredibly valuable to them. And so it's all those things encapsulated. So
exactly. And as Kristen says, qualify. And when you
qualify.
when you spend that time with that customer and you literally or actually literally ask questions, you listen, and you practice that art that a lot of sales guys sometimes don't do well, which is listen to understand, not listen to just say something.
Well, and think about the last two letters. Think about the last two letters in qualify. FY for you.
For you. There you
qualify for you.
Right.
Because then and Kirsten, thank you for that. Qualify for you. It's for you to understand better how to make sure that you're speaking the same language. I was in the Charlotte airport yesterday, and there were people from all over the world in that airport. Some of them were speaking languages I didn't understand. So why am I going to go jump into a conversation where I don't understand the language?
Right.
And so, it's for you to understand that. Thank you for that call out, Kirsten. That it's really good because I think a lot of times we don't do a good job as salespeople qualifying within ourselves.
Right.
What we understand about that customer.
And another thing I think it happens to us, Brian, is that we get wrapped up. I say you and I have been doing it a long time. I think we're probably don't mess this up too often.
Well, that's why I call her my beard. I'm going to full disclosure. My beard's not naturally this dark.
Well,
but
I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. You got on late, so you didn't get to. You'll meet Wes after the show quickly if you got a minute.
Yeah.
But, Wes has a little stake in that one beard company. I can't remember what do you call it. The beard color company.
I use Just for Men, so
that's what he does.
Yeah.
I think that's what he does. He's not nodding at me. He's ignoring me now.
Because, listen, Just for Men. That's exactly. Well, here's the thing. I use it because, I want my wife to think, my husband's good. Because I married up. I really married up. I mean, my wife's a beautiful girl even after 25 years. Because I was a reclamation project. I was one of those, it's like you see in sports. It's like, well, we're going to get this guy off the scrap heap and see if we can get something out of him. And I was kind of the ultimate reclamation project. So yeah, that's why I do what I do.
Well, as Wes can attest to that, and I can tell you that I definitely did, because the hashtag Dixie chick, she was a special ed teacher in her former years, and not making any light of any of that, but I'm still a project. It's ongoing, and I think I'm a challenge. I think I'm being a challenge just so she doesn't ever get rid of me. But the funny thing, back to what Kirsten said and you said, that I don't want to lose before I forget about it. Are you entering the sales relationship? And the key word is as a relationship or as an order. Because so many, now it depends on what you're into. I understand there are things that's just a one-time deal. It's an order, it's out the door. But for what what a lot of us do, we're in the people business, we're in the relationship business, I've got customers we talked about on your show that I've known for 25 years, 30 years. I know their family, gone to funerals and weddings and open houses and all that stuff. But if you're looking for that long-term business relationship where you don't have to go sell every single time, right? You just do business with each other. The only way you get there is that you develop that connection first. And a word I like sometimes is incremental, right? It's all incrementalism, right?
Yeah.
You don't, if you're dating this girl and you think, geez, she's kind of sharp, and man, I think I'd like to know her. You typically, unless you're in Vegas on a drunken night, probably aren't marrying her after 4 drinks in the bar, right? There's incremental steps that you go through. And I think it's the same way in business relationships, right? You build that trust level. And if you build that trust level, it takes a lot more to destroy that. You're probably not going to lose that good customer because of one stupid, bad thing that went wrong.
Well,
right?
But there's a lot of salespeople that have a false bravado as well, too, that they think, man, I'm cemented tight with this customer. This customer isn't going to leave me no matter what. And a lot of times in sales, I've gotten that. I mean, I had customers that I was like, man, it's going to take a lot to blow me out of here. And you find that you get blown out of there. You're constantly I would say, Randy, it's almost like a marriage where you're trying to constantly iterate and grow and hopefully, listen, I've always said if I could go back in time to 20 years ago or 25 years ago, I would probably, the first thing I'd do is smack myself in the face, be like, listen, you idiot, get yourself in line here. You've got a wonderful woman that you need to be better to. But you learn over time and you grow over time, and that relationship just grows and there's maturity and things like that. And listen, I'm a lot more mature as a man, as a husband, as a father, and as a salesperson than I even was 10 years ago or 15 years ago or even 5 years ago. Because as we grow as people, then we understand what relationships are all about. And we understand that to keep that relationship where it needs to be, we've got to continue to grow and adapt and connect. Connection never stops, even with married couples, connection never stops, even between, children and parents. Connection never stops. And so if we as salespeople think we've got this relationship thing nailed down and this customer is going to buy from me forever. I had a guy tell me early in my sales career, veteran sales manager, he said, Brian, you've always got to be prepared to replace your best customer. Mm-hmm. And that was some of the best advice I got that I filed away that 25 years later I'm still pulling out, because it's true. If you think you've got it cemented in life, in anything, you're going to find out in a heartbeat that that may not be as solid as you. I mean, Randy, forgive me for, we just saw in Kentucky when they had tornadoes that came through there. The most structurally sound buildings in Franklin, Kentucky, where they had that devastating tornado, got damaged. I mean, I watched the news report, and this couple was talking about it, and they said if we knew what we know now, we would have said, go to this building that had been built 18 months earlier to all the specifications and the latest updated specs and all this other stuff. And that building suffered significant damage. And they were dumbfounded, and they said, that would have been the place we would have told people to go because we felt like it could have withstood anything. And guess what? There were homes that were probably 50, 60, 70 years old that sustained zero damage.
Right.
Because, for whatever reason, and you can look and say, well, this building failed or this thing failed because of this or that. But again, don't be so sure that everything that you think is rock solid is rock solid.
Well, exactly, because I was going to say with the bad side of that whole idea of incrementally building is you can incrementally lose, right? Also,
absolutely.
And if you don't pay attention, and I think that's an area that I think you have to be cautious of, is what you just said so well, is okay, I've got this guy for life. You do as long as you continue to do the stuff that got you to that position to begin with.
Yeah.
Now you might have earned a political capital here or there. You might have earned an extra oops or two, maybe. Mm-hmm. But you can't. And I think that's an area that a lot of the young salesmen get involved with. Is we're always looking for new business, whether we're new, young, or medium-aged sales guys. That's the lifeblood of what we do. We need new business. We want new business. That's what we do. But to put all the focus on this new business and forget about that guy, because like you said, well, he won't ever leave me.
Yeah.
Well, he probably won't if you continue doing what you always did, right? That is a case of, the old idea of if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got, right?
That's right.
We take that as a negative in certain cases, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing the right stuff with these people for 20 years, you probably ought to keep doing that same right stuff and not back off.
Well, and here's the thing, too. And you're going to watch the Super Bowl next Sunday, as millions of people are. Zach Taylor is not pulling Joe Burrow out of that game because he throws an interception.
Right.
And we've got so many sales managers out there that will pull a salesperson or they'll reprimand them or put them on a PBIP program or something like that, or a performance review, because they make a couple of mistakes. I have a lot more respect for that coach or manager that allows a guy to navigate through his mistakes. I've got to let you, and there's a great story from the Bengals Titans game where for about 4 plays, Joe Burrow's headset went out. And so for about 4 plays, he called his own plays. And the coach said, well, I don't want him really to call his own plays yet, but now we know he can do it.
Right.
Now we know that he knows this offense as well as we know this offense. And you know what they would have done? They would have, if he had thrown an interception, Randy, they would have said, okay, so what? All the good things that he does far outweigh the mistakes that he makes.
Right.
And that's the thing that we've got to be very cautious about as sales managers and I want to talk to the sales managers, if you've got somebody that you believe has got some talent, give them the room to make some mistakes. Because as they grow and they get more experience, they're going to learn from those mistakes. And in 5 years, you're going to have an unbelievable salesperson working for you. Exactly. And here's the thing. If you trade them before they get the mistakes out, you're going to give your competitors a rock star. You don't ever want to give your competitor a superstar. You never want to give your competitor a superstar.
Right. Well, anybody that's mistake-free, right, has not done much. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, there's only one that was mistake-free, and his name was Jesus.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. Right on. Well, I appreciate your time today. And you know what? Because we got a little bit of a late start, I am going to throw
that was
an invitation.
my fault.
No, all good. I'm going to throw an invitation out, though, that let's try to do this again sometime here in a few months. What do you say?
I would love to do that. I can't believe we don't have more time. I was just getting going, man. I was going to talk about,
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you one more time because Wes is smiling, which means he's not ready to pull the hook yet. I think he's got to go to dinner or something. I don't know. Anyway, give me your Wes. What do we put up? What's the hashtag? Yeah, thank you. I never remember. Should ask question. What's the last thing that I didn't ask today that you're going? Come on, Randy, ask this question.
Oh man. Randy, you led us into some great conversation. I think the next time that we talk, I need to tell you the story of the first date that I had with my wife.
That could be worthwhile.
Yeah, the first date, and the question that her mom, now my mother-in-law, the question that she asked me in the living room of my house, of her house. I alluded to it when I said my dad was the youngest of 12 kids. But the next time we're on, it's the question that my mother-in-law asked me.
All right. That's a deal.
Yeah.
That's a deal. We'll make it happen, my friend.
There's a story behind this, pretty powerful.
I love what you do. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you.
And, we're going to get you on again because this, as we talked a couple of weeks ago, I think we went an hour and something, and it seemed like about 5 minutes. I love chatting with you. And
me as well. Thank you, Randy.
I need to bring more Brian Sexton to the world. To my little hunk of the world anyways. So if you want to hold on just a quick second, I just want to introduce you to Wes real quick, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, he's going to pop you in the green room. I'm going to be back in about probably less than a minute. Brian Sexton, man, was that some good stuff or what, my friends? I knew this would be good. Brian's the real deal. Check out his book, People Buy From People. You will not be disappointed. And check out his podcast, Intentional Encourager Podcast. It's very positive. It's very uplifting. And you're going to get Brian that you got here today is the Brian you get. Kirsten, thank you. Appreciate all your input as always. And as we talked early, next week, 3 shows. Because I'm crazy. Monday, we got a guy, Scott Miller. We don't have the promo ready to put up yet, but we'll start promoting that over the weekend. But a friend of mine that I've met via social media, he's a sales pro in his own right, a motivator. He runs a Facebook group called what's he call it? The Invisible Story Selling by Scott. It's he has some great stuff every day. If you're not following Scott, you need to follow Scott. Scott Miller. He's going to be on next week, Monday. And then we'll be telling you next week who's going to be on Wednesday and who's going to be on Friday. But I can tell you Wednesday's going to be a fun one. If you like books, you like sales, you're going to like Wednesday also. So till then, we'll see you next week, Monday, and make it just a massively awesome weekend. As a matter of fact, live it, love it, own it. Love what you do and do what you love. And what do I always say? Make today your best day ever. God, right there. Who is that brilliant guy? Make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Cheers, my friends. Thanks for all you do.